What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Nerdgasm. Today we're going to be going over the history of the Ultimate Marvel Universe Legion. Now, I know I promised you guys the 616 history, but it's just so much information and I want to do it right, so I figured I would give you just a little taste of what his other earthly counterpart was up to. Now, in the Ultimate Marvel Universe, David was born to both Charles Xavier and Moira McTaggart. An important thing to know is that in the Ultimate Marvel Universe, this wasn't just Legion. This was a combination of Moira McTaggart's son Proteus and Charles Xavier's son Legion combined into one. The two of them met when they were both doing their postgraduates over at Glasgow University. Unfortunately, the Happy family had some problems when Charles Xavier ran into Magneto. This was the first time that Charles Xavier had met another adult mutant, and the sparks between them were electric. They were talking about how to save the world and all of mutant kind. But because of this, Charles started to grow distant from his family, and one day ended up leaving them without even saying goodbye. Unfortunately, this affected David in a large way, and David's X gene started going out of control. David couldn't control the matter around his person, and even the slightest use of his abilities had a devastating effect on his physical body. Moira McTaggart had to keep her son drugged and locked up in the Muir Island facility just so that he wouldn't kill himself. Honestly, he would have been dead in about a week if he had kept going the way he was going. Skip forward many years later, and when Professor Xavier visits Britain while he's doing a book tour for mutants, David started convulsing again, sensing his father was near. Because of this attack on his body, David would have died from it, but luckily for him, he was able to jump into the body of another person there. What David didn't know is that his power would start to burn out whoever he was in. David made his way all the way to a boat where he started jumping from person to person on the boat until the people from Muir Island showed up and tried to stop him. And of course, because he's an Omega level mutant, they had no way to stop him. He was even so strong that he was able to jump from the boat to land without breaking a sweat. The X-Men eventually caught up to David when he was trying to get some food at a Burger King, and when Wolverine went in to try and stop him, Legion killed everyone there and was able to take over Wolverine's body. Now, because Wolverine had an adamantium skeleton and an amazing healing factor, David thought that he could just stay in this body forever. So he had access to Wolverine's power and his own immense reality warping powers. David started playing mind games with some of the mutants, and he made Beast look what it would be like if he was behind bars in a cage and all the horrible names people used to call him. And then he also brought some of Iceman's nightmares to life from when he was fighting the Brotherhood of Evil. Luckily, Storm was able to hit him with a bolt of lightning, and Psylocke actually dropped a psychic grenade inside of his mind. To get away, David had to throw Wolverine's body in front of a truck and then jumped into the body of the driver and got away. Everyone was too busy distracted trying to see if Wolverine was okay to even go after him, which I think is crazy because it's Wolverine. Of course he was okay. What nobody knew is that David actually didn't run far. He jumped into the body of Psylocke, and Psylocke was walking around hanging out with Professor Xavier all day long. And when Professor Xavier finally realized that it was David inside of her body, David said that he was going to wait for the rest of the X-Men to show up so that he could kill them in front of Xavier, and he wanted to finish his peanut M&Ms. Some of the X-Men arrived and tried to save Professor Xavier, but of course they were no match for David, and David knew that. He wasn't scared at all about what they were going to do. David even rearranged the molecules in Psylocke's body to look like himself in his favorite football shirt. There's not really much he couldn't do. So of course, all of the X-Men are going all out on David, and David is just stopping them one at a time. Beast, Storm, no problem, not even breaking a sweat. And then when he senses that there are some X-Men in a plane overhead, he blows the plane up and then sends Colossus, Cyclops, and Marvel Girl down to where he was. See, he wanted Professor Xavier to see him kill all of the X-Men, especially Cyclops. He knew that Cyclops was his little golden boy, and he wanted to make sure Charles saw that. But something weird happened. When David went to go kill Cyclops, his powers weren't working like they should, and Cyclops melted David's face off with his optic blast. It was freaking crazy. And for someone who's an Omega level mutant, David gets pretty pissed about his eyelashes being burnt off. When David goes after Storm instead, Iceman tries to show up and save her because he has a thing for Storm, and he gets easily pummeled by David. It was kind of sad. After that, David starts taking his dad around the world to the spots where Xavier was supposed to be doing his book tours. And David starts destroying and killing, all because he knew that it would ruin the image of the X-Men and hurt Charles Xavier to his core. David even remarks that because of this, he's killed more people than Magneto and the Brotherhood of Mutants ever did. But for some reason, David can't get to New York, but he doesn't really care because all he wanted to do was destroy his father. In a surprise twist, it turns out that Psylocke, being the powerful telepath that she is, wasn't completely consumed by David and was fighting back. This is the reason that he couldn't destroy Cyclops and he couldn't teleport to New York. While Psylocke is fighting David, trying to get control, she tells Xavier to kill her. That's the only way they're gonna stop David. There's no other way to do it. And Charles, being who he is, couldn't do that. He couldn't kill someone, especially a mutant. But when she screams out to just hurry up and kill her, Colossus shows up doing the deed that no one else was gonna do. Of course, David's mother was shocked and screaming over the death of her son, but Colossus knew he did what he had to do. Even though David wasn't successful in destroying everything his father had created, he had destroyed enough. And Charles Xavier questioned everything he had ever done. Maybe it wasn't enough, and maybe he was actually making things worse with having a team of soldiers. He even vows that when he gets back to New York, the X-Men were going to be disbanded for good. And even though David wasn't able to achieve 100% of his goals, the endgame was still the same. The X-Men had been destroyed. Now I know the Ultimate Marvel Legion isn't as satisfying as the 616 Legion, but I wanted to give you guys a little taste of what Legion is about throughout the entire Marvel Universe while I work on trying to perfect this History of Legion video. It's like so much stuff and I want to do it right for you guys, and every time I keep doing it, I'm like, no, it's not good enough, I have to do more. I also want to remind you guys that if you want to keep up with all the videos that are going to be coming out, and if you guys want to suggest videos, you can follow me on Twitter and the link is in the description below. It's the best way to contact me if you guys have any ideas, and trust me, I will always try to get to them because there's so much to talk about, guys. There's so much stuff that we can do, and I will do my best to try and explain it to the fullest, guys. I love you, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.